Writer at the Weekly Standard, Ed O'Keefe, is a congressional reporter for the Washington Post. It's nice to have you both on a big day and quite frankly, a little unexpected, Ed. Here we had yesterday the big news during our show was Kathleen Sebelius saying in front of a Senate committee, hey, we have 7.5 million enrollees. Why now did she step down? What do you make of the timing?
Well, if you think about it, you know, they've hit the deadlines and the enrollment period is over. So really Chapter 1 or maybe Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the Affordable Care Act is over. And now it's going to take a new manager and really a new face to get it into year 2 and deal with all the other challenges that certainly are coming into the fall. It's no secret that while she may have fans in the White House and among some congressional Democrats that Sebelius has become a bit of a lightning rod. I think she herself has said privately that she knows that. Certainly, you know, networks like this one and others have made her a household name in some respects. And she understood that in order to make sure that this law could sort of continue on into its first full year, it's going to need a new face. And in Sylvia Burwell, they've got someone who has great acclaim up on Capitol Hill, has bipartisan support for her work as budget chief and in other positions before that. And she's only going to need 51 votes in the Senate, which Democrats have, because remember, of course, Democrats changed the rules on executive branch confirmations last fall. So even if she gets beat up in a confirmation hearing, which is probably going to happen, it's likely she will eventually be confirmed pretty easily.
Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. But I think it's important to look at Sylvia Burwell, where she's coming from, to tell you maybe where the White House is thinking for the next couple of months and years with Obamacare. She wasn't from outside the federal government. She's not even from outside the White House. I mean, she's from the largest office in the White House. That's the Office of Management and Budget. So I think what it shows is that the White House is maybe not so confident that the law can stand on its own without somebody from deep within the administration sort of overseeing it all. And I think it's also important to note that part of Sebelius's problems, as Ed mentioned, she wasn't exactly working as a face for Obamacare in this maybe new phase, but she was also coming to, I think, loggerheads with some folks in the White House. So I think that this move sort of shows Barack Obama's White House maybe taking a little bit of an assertive stand here and taking over the next phase of the implementation of Obamacare.
Ed, the president called Burwell no manager as experienced or competent as her, but it's interesting to note that your newspaper today says she does not have an extensive background in healthcare policy. And in fact, we looked at it. The recent Secretary of Health and Human Services that had any sort of medical degree was during the first Bush administration. And it's interesting to see Sebelius and Burwell talk a lot about care. But what do you think it says about the priority, being that we don't really have someone with great expertise on healthcare policy or care taking the position as head of this massive department?
Well, I think the argument that people on Capitol Hill and at the White House would make is that this whole law needs a good manager. And in that respect, she certainly has the management experience in that she's worked at the budget office and has been regarded by both parties as a pretty effective manager. She had run a large foundation for Walmart. She worked with the Gates Foundation as well and has management experience there. You know, not every defense secretary necessarily has military experience. Not every Treasury secretary has practical banking experience necessarily. Would it be helpful to one day find a doctor who has great management experience to run HHS? I'm sure absolutely any president would want that. But I think the big problem facing this law right now, as we have documented so well over the last few years, is just general management concerns and getting the trains to run on time.
Well,
and it appears that the president thinks that this is someone who can do that.
And Michael, to Ed's point there, here she was approved, Burwell, to run a fourth of the economy in her current position. And if she's approved to take this next position, she'll run a sixth of the economy. So is this really the priority about financials? And does that really mean that she'll be approved and we do have our priorities straight, because it is about the bottom line? I only have about 30 seconds here.
It's hard to say what the priority here is from the White House, but I do want to point out that while she was confirmed unanimously for the OMB job, I think you're going to see from Senate Republicans a real fight in these confirmation hearings about not necessarily Sylvia Burwell, but about Obamacare. And I think that it's a really tough vote for people like Mark Pryor or Mary Landrieu or Kay Hagan, Democrats who are up for re-election, to sort of vote for a nominee directly from the White House to head up the department that's running Obamacare. That's going to be a tough vote in an election year.
We'll see what they do. Right now they're on a 2-week recess. So I guess we have a little bit of a break until we actually see when these hearings will be scheduled and what happens next. Mike, Ed, great to have your perspectives. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna.